Making headlines tonight, government introduces legislation to support the 12-month welcome stamp program. Authorities addressing safety concerns at the Barinda Cox Market in Oistins. Journalists discuss safety on the job. And coming up in sports, Jason Holder's 18-month reign as the best test all-rounder comes to an end.
Newsnight Headlines was brought to you compliments Omega XL.
Broadcasting from our studios in the Pine St. Michael, this is CBC Newsnight, starting now.
I'm Shane Jones, leading the news at 7. Government has taken another step in its effort to introduce integrity in public life legislation. A resolution to adopt the report of the Joint Committee on the Integrity in Public Life Bill cleared the lower house today. Prime Minister Mia Amor-Motley says there has been wide consultation on the bill with input into the report from several stakeholders. She is hopeful it will receive support in the Senate.
We come to this moment to bring to closure and to bring to start a new moment in the affairs of this country. One that I trust will be embraced by the other place, conscious that 50 years ago, almost 40-something years ago, the other place brought to a halt an attempt by the then government to be able to introduce, under the late Tom Adams, to be able to introduce measures that would have admitted for greater accountability in the affairs of our nation. I trust and pray that this will not meet a similar fate.
Also coming out of today's session was the introduction of legislation to support the 12-month Barbados Welcome Stamp program, which will allow visitors from overseas to stay for an entire year and work remotely. The welcome stamp, set to commence in August, has gained popularity across the globe, and Prime Minister Motley has played her part in its promotion. She's acknowledged it has not been easy for tourism-dependent countries like Barbados, given the difficulty of short-term travel with coronavirus restrictions and protocols. As she led off debate on the Remote Employment Bill 2020, she says Barbadians need not worry about visitors coming to take away their jobs.
Once this passes Parliament this week, we would be in a position to approve visas, hopefully from as early as this weekend, so that persons can start their trek from the 1st of August. It's ironic that that is also Emancipation Day, but we say symbolism is in everything that we do. Mr. Speaker, the fee for it, in the case of Barbados currency, is $4,000 for an individual, or $2,000 US, as we've been speaking, because most people will view it in terms of an international denominated currency.
Ms. Motley sought to clear up any misconception as to who is welcome, noting as long as she is Prime Minister, Barbados welcomes all.
The people that want to put us in a box that will allow people to be discriminated against for any reason, Mr. Speaker, that is not who we are. We are not that person. We are not that person. And we've never been. You know, the irony is that this country has welcomed people for decades and centuries without being that person. This country has made people feel comfortable. And I am not going to be part of any communication that suggests that Barbados is trying to be half of who or what it is, and that we are sponsoring discrimination or phobias of any type.
Meanwhile, opposition leader Bishop Joseph Atherley has questioned the urgency behind the debate and passage of today's Remote Employment Bill 2020. Voicing his discomfort with the legislation, he pointed out that it opens Barbados to several ills, including different social norms and transnational organized crime. He's also called for clarity in some aspects of the bill.
The legislation has to be clear as to whether you're targeting employees or self-employed persons, entrepreneurs, because the unscrupulous can set up a shell company, a dummy company, and come here as an employee. And I do not know that the legislation in any way suggests that this is anticipated.
The opposition leader also says some people have argued the welcome stamp program could be interpreted in some corners as a pathway for the granting of citizenship. Water Resources Minister Wilfred Abrams says there is no truth to a message circulating on social media indicating pending changes to the management structure at the Barbados Water Authority. Speaking to CBC News this afternoon, Minister Abrams says he is aware of the document. It purports to be seeking the minister's written authorization to terminate the general manager as well as the procurement and recoveries managers in addition to retiring the acting general manager. According to the document, the instruction would further authorize the reassignment of a senior staff member as the acting general manager and hire a new director of customer care, collection, credit management, and communications. However, Minister Abrams says there is no such thing happening.
I have also received the document or documents that you very likely are referring to. Insofar as it touches and concerns me, it is patently false. I have had no such discussions with the chair in relation to that. Somebody is obviously willfully and maliciously targeting the Water Authority and perhaps the chair. I understand that she has made a report or is in the process of making a report to the police, and we'll get to the bottom of this.
The minister says the document appears to be part of an effort to destabilize the BWA in spite of all the work it has done. We
are trying our best to satisfy our mandate to bring water to all the people of Barbados. We're in the discussions with the union as we speak, trying to resolve any of the outstanding issues that we had between the workers or management or with respect to the structure of the Water Authority, not concerning the correspondence that you refer to. So I can tell you that's fake news. It's entirely fake news, and I wish that the persons who are doing this would stop, and we're going to take all steps legal to get to the bottom of this and prosecute whoever is responsible.
The untimely death of Nation photojournalist Christophe Griffith shows the need for media managers and media workers to make safety their priority. That was the consensus reached during discussion on CBC TV8's The People's Business, which explored the issues faced by the media. Griffith was one of 2 people killed last month when he went to report on an incident at Bishop's Court Hill, St. Michael. President of the Barbados Association of Journalists and Media Workers, Emmanuel Joseph, says the need for increased caution when venturing out on assignments was one of the lessons learned following the unfortunate death. Meantime, Carol Martindale, executive editor at the Nation Publishing Company where Griffith worked, adds journalists face the threat of physical and verbal abuse on the job every day.
What individual media houses will certainly have to do, and certainly this forces us to do it, is a rethink and a relook at what we do, how we do it, put extra things in place to make sure that, yes, safety is number one, to tighten up on that safety as well. It really does make you pause, and it forces you rather to relook your own system as an individual media company.
Starcom Network's David Ellis also recalled chemical fires that took place in Barbados, noting that journalists are not only at risk from violence.
Media people actually responded to that particular situation on both occasions, and we had to be worried about their safety because there are things that can happen in this country that will require proper equipment. It's not just COVID, but right across the board what it says is that we need to review our protocols, and we need to get involved in reminding people that when they go out to assignment, their safety is number one. That is the most important issue.
And our own Ryan Broom says he felt the loss acutely.
It caused me to think about all the different things that we can do, that media hosts, that media managers, media owners can do to improve safety in terms of before having a policy before you go on scenes, or if it's an active scene, if it's a scene that the police have not arrived there as yet. And these are things that have to be discussed. We have to make sure that that there is something that comes out of this that we can use to protect people going forward. It's a life that has been lost, and we must ensure that anything that happens from here on out ensures that anybody who goes on to anywhere else, that they put safety first.
Maritime Affairs and Blue Economy Minister Kirk Humphrey has kept his word about erecting barriers at the Barinda Cox Market in Oistins to protect fisherfolk and customers. The action comes on the heels of last month's freak accident when fish vendor Rita Sissy Hunt lost her life. Work on the barriers has started, and Mr. Humphrey and MTW officials who visited the market recently said the project should be completed shortly. Hurricane season well underway, having started on June 1st, CBC's newsroom is committed to helping Barbadians understand how best to prepare for the worst. Over the next few months, every Tuesday we will bring you Storm Ready, a news night series which will provide helpful and accurate information provided by the Department of Emergency Management during the hurricane season. Tonight, we look at risk determination. Storm Ready is brought to you by the City of Bridgetown Cooperative Credit Union, measuring success one member at a time. One of the most important things you can do when preparing yourself and your family for a severe weather event is to determine your risk. Sometimes we do not consider all of the devastating hazards that a hurricane can bring, like storm surges, inland flooding due to heavy rainfall, strong winds, rip currents, and large waves. It is important to know which of these hazards are most likely to impact your home before disaster strikes. For example, if your home is on the coastline, you may need to evacuate in the event of a storm surge. So remember to find out what types of wind and water hazards could happen where you live, and then start preparing to handle them. Hurricanes are not just a coastal problem. Their impacts can be felt many miles inland, and significant damage can occur without it being a major hurricane. Storm Ready was brought to you by the City of Bridgetown Cooperative Credit Union, measuring success one member at a time. The Congress of Trade Unions and Staff Associations is encouraging operators in the transport sector and businesses to comply with the protocols set by government. General Secretary of CITUSAB, Dennis DePisa, says policing and monitoring is important not only for the safety of workers, but the public at large. His advice follows a warning from the COVID-19 czar Richard Carter that government will be moving to shut down those businesses found in breach of the rules.
What we are noticing that this society has been plagued by a heavy level of indiscipline over time. There has been the non-compliance, there has been the lack of respect shown for order. For years, we've had the ZR and minibus culture, which has prevailed despite all attempts to curb the behavior. And if we allow this to continue, then we are obviously giving in to the indiscipline that is more or less being reflected across the landscape. And as we see, if the truth be told, we are seeing Barbadians who are ignoring the caution flags that have been raised with respect to the COVID-19 and what needs to be done.
Government's Trust Loan Fund, which was specially designed for entrepreneurs, is still active. Word of this from the fund's unit manager, Jerry Amos. He was speaking on the sidelines of a money and debt management workshop held at the Christchurch Parish Church.
At this current moment, we're still distributing loans. However, we are concentrating primarily on our existing clients that we are attempting to rescue. We realized that during the COVID period that a lot of our clients would have been severely impacted, just like clients throughout the world. And what we have done is we have identified some clients that we know would need assistance in getting their business back off the ground. So that is where our concentration is at the moment. So as it relates to new loans, we aren't doing any new businesses. Let me just make that clear at this point. We have tried to avoid doing new businesses. But if you do have an existing business, and especially if it's in manufacturing or agriculture, we are still looking at those loans.
In his remarks, Small Business and Entrepreneurship Minister Dwight Sutherland noted over 3,000 Barbadians have benefited from the fund since its inception.
Loans to the agricultural sector total some 350, valued at 1.65 billion. Loans to the cultural and creative industry total 144, and that is value of 650,000. Loans to the manufacturing sector, some 283 loans, and we would like to see that increase, valued at 1.26 million. And loans to the retail sector are close to the 1,000, is 900, and valued at 3.948 million. And loans to the service sector are a whopping 1,308, valued at some $6 million. And loans to the tourism sector are 27 at $130,000.
Another student from the Ann Hill School has reaped rewards for hard work thanks to the Reduce, Reuse, Recycle Barbados charity. Sheena Jordan's outstanding academic achievements have not only brought her good grades, but she also copped a brand new laptop and a job attachment from the charity, which is headed by recycling magnate Anderson Cherry. Cherry, who has been running the Big Brother and Big Sister program for the past 3 years, recently presented Jordan with her prize following grades in the Pearson LCCI Basic with Merit, CXC EDPM Grade 3, CVQ in Data Operations, and a certificate in Nail Technology from the Samuel Jackman Prescott Institute. Jordan is one of 2 students at the Ann Hill with spinal bifida, and even though confined to a wheelchair, she never saw her inability to walk as a disability. A Barbadian mother of 2 who has been diagnosed with Chiari malformation is on a mission to raise over 60,000 Barbados dollars for a medical operation overseas. 28-year-old Nikisha Stout says she was told she had the rare brain condition last year. Rianne Phillips tells us more.
Just a few years ago, Nikisha Stout led an active lifestyle as a dancer and pageant contestant. Like many young people, she tried to enjoy life to the fullest. But all of that changed in 2019, 1 year after the birth of her second son, when she was diagnosed with Chiari malformation. Chiari malformations are structural defects in the base of the skull and cerebellum, the part of the brain that controls balance.
It causes a lot of dizziness and pain and headaches, and it bends the spine and causes a cough, a very bad cough. You can't cough, you can't sneeze. It blocks the throat, so it's hard to swallow. So it's a smaller passage to swallow when eating or drinking. When you cough, you vomit. Your head get dizzy. The eyes blurry. Sometimes they burn. Fingers are numb, feet are numb. And in my case, where I have a cyst, what they call a syrinx, is on the inside of the spine, which causes you not to be able to walk on your own.
Nikisha is seeking to raise over $60,000 for a decompression surgery at the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center in Pennsylvania.
They said that there's also going to be a cost for appointments, because I have to see the doctor first, then there's the surgery, and then I have to go back after the surgery, so I'll be out there for a while. I would really like to get the operation done before the year is out, because the longer I'm like this, the more time I give my body to get comfortable being like this. And I don't want to stay like this. I don't. Oh.
So far, some of her friends and a few Barbadians have been trying to arrange fundraisers. But those events are still in the planning phases.
The food stuff and everything to sell in the place, we don't have any of that as yet. I have the performers, I have the tables, I have the chairs, we have the jumping tent, we have the popcorn machine, we have the cotton candy machine. We might be getting the space, as I tell you that they already say they're considering it.
I promised her that after the COVID situation is finished, that I would try to have a show put on for her. As a matter of fact, I've spoken to people in the United States of America about her plight, asking them for help for her. So I hope that something tangible comes out of this, because we need to lift up these people and let them know that life goes on, and in spite of what problems they have, they can turn their life around. And having 2 kids, you want to see that they taken care of, because children are very important.
Anyone that wants to help, I guess they can call me at 828-3002. Nikki, what's your number again? Or
3236-4272.
Yes, because I would really like her to get some help. That's the honest truth.
Rianne Phillips, CBC News.
Well, still to come, details released about an arson attack in St. Lucia. Then we have sports a bit later on, but before we get to all of that, here's a tip from Cooperators General Insurance.
Is brought to you by Cooperators General Insurance Company Limited. Insurance the way you want it to be.
After a hurricane, do not use your car unnecessarily, as this should help conserve gasoline. Cooperators General Insurance, helping you to be prepared this hurricane season.
Checking in with our regional neighbors now in St. Lucia. New details have emerged in the arson attack on a church in Vieux Fort over the weekend. Parishioners were sent scurrying for safety after a lone assailant bearing Molotov cocktails attempted to set a crucifix on fire and made his way inside the church during Mass. We have a report from HTS St. Lucia.
A chapel in the plains of Piero Vieux Fort North came under attack by a lone arsonist on a rampage to bring a fiery end to a giant crucifix outside the church. According to Archbishop Robert Rivas, the details of the harrowing attack were relayed to him by Father John Wu, who was present at the parish on Sunday.
The person was outside making noises, and then the person flung Molotov cocktails at the image of Christ above the church, and they both flared up, and there is video to substantiate that. Then somehow the person got away and went in through a side door into the church.
Archbishop Rivas says the arsonist went on an unintelligible ramble, repeating the words devil and lava. The apparently disturbed man then made his way to the center of the church, up the sanctuary and onto the altar. He says the parish priest noticed the Molotov cocktails in the man's hands and immediately blew out the candles. The arsonist became increasingly agitated at the sight of a deacon holding a crucifix.
He kept saying, "Put that thing away, get rid of that thing." So it's obviously there is an anti-Christian reaction on the part of that person, and the person eventually, some people came and they took him out of the church.
Rivas says that though fear gripped 10 parishioners who fled the church, many members of the congregation were resolute.
Recent changes at banks in Jamaica have made it difficult for some customers to conduct their business. For many, they are running out of patience, as we hear in this TVJ report.
I don't understand it. I have to use my sister, I have to take my sister with me whenever time I come to the bank. And I have a problem with my foot too, you know. I can't come and stand in this long line. You know, it's a bother to me.
That was Clifton in St. Thomas. He's complaining about the self-serve system, which requires customers to fill out a form and essentially complete transactions on their own. And he's not the only one struggling. Over in St. Anne, Justice of the Peace and businessman Anthony Charlie argues that customers in the parish are also finding it hard to adjust to the new banking normal.
True reality is that a lot of them can barely read and write, and they are intimidated by just going to the bank, much less to go and operate an ATM machine. This is grief.
The common thread across the parishes is that elderly people are particularly disadvantaged. Our news team spoke with a few senior citizens who argued that the change was too sudden.
Give us some more time, educate us, give us some more machines, put in the infrastructure.
There should be a priority for us, that when we come there is someone who will assist us to get through.
We're not saying that you're not supposed to go online, because we know that the world going online. But find a way to help the citizens, the older citizens like myself.